Guys, this morning was out getting my walk in, and I was talking to a general manager buddy of mine. And I was asking him about the center, Jackson Powers Johnson, and if there were some health concerns there for him. And he said there's been some things reported about this player health-wise that aren't true.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so I said, well, okay, tell me what he goes, we feel like the guy is clean. And I mean clean in a way of some of those
hygienic
things, some of those things that you were really worried about with him that he struggled with, some of those injuries that they said, no, that those things kind of checked out. So this again is another team that has cleared Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon, on their board. I do not know how the Cowboys feel about him. I need to figure that out. Got a couple of days to do so. But I was encouraged by what this general manager told me with as far as the health goes. I thought this was going to be a flat, just red flag, can't take the guy. But he's like, nah, this guy, it's not as bad as everybody thinks it's going, or it has been. So let's see if in fact that maybe can help the Cowboys a little bit. We need to, like I say, we need to figure that out.
I love that, man. If he's healthy and he goes ahead of you, that would be my preferred thing, to get Barton or a player that I would prefer.
Yeah.
Because you know how I am with the injured guys.
I know.
You could tell me they passed, and I'm like, well, they passed for you, but there's injured players all over pro sport that really shouldn't be here, would never be on my team. By
the way, this list I'm working on 105.3 The Fan, our website. I've got they've got the offensive lineup and the defensive lineup. So it's my
trenches.
It's my rankings by round, and then the number next to that person is where I have them on my stack. And I want to get in because I talked to my general manager friend, and I asked him about some names of these offensive linemen. And I asked him about Troy Fatanu from the University of Washington. And I said, listen, if Dallas had Fatanu, Barton, and Latham from Alabama. Now, Barton is the center from Duke, and Latham is the tackle who some people projecting to guard from Alabama on the board. That would be, they could take one of those guys. And he flat said, Latham is not going to be there for you guys to pick at 24. So I kind of felt like the guy that wouldn't be there would be Fatanu from Washington, the tackle. But he says you have a better chance of getting Fatanu and Barton than you do Latham. And I kind of felt like, oh, okay.
Is that a good?
Yeah. So I feel like Latham is the 19th best player on my board. Fatanu is the 22nd best player on my board, right there. And then when you go down to with Barton, we've talked about him. He is my 23rd best player on my board. So, like I said, maybe we'll see how it all plays out for the Cowboys. If one of those guys I do believe if Barton is there, they will take Barton is who they will take. But if you're one of those guys or gals that's a fan of Latham, the Alabama tackle, it doesn't sound like that he's going to get to Dallas, according to this guy, my general manager friend there. All right, I'm going to point out a guy that I'd like to for everybody to take a look at, or at least us talk about. And I'd like to talk about Roger Rosengarten from the University of Washington. And I've got a third-round grade on him right now. I think I got a pretty good group of third-round offensive linemen here. I like Roger Rosengarten from Washington. I like Blake Fisher from Notre Dame, who plays right tackle. And then this Javen Foster from Missouri. I feel like those are three guys that if Dallas is looking for somebody at 87 in that third round, these are all three guys that I would consider taking. Rosengarten could play left or right tackle. He plays right tackle at Washington. He's a really good foot athlete. Blake Fisher was a right tackle at Notre Dame. Feel like that he's got the athletic ability as well to shift over to the left side, but he's made a ton of starts as a right tackle. So you have to consider that. And then Javen Foster from Missouri is a really tall, kind of a little bit of a lighter guy when you talk about weight, in the 306 to 308 pound range, but a really, really good athlete out of Missouri. But those guys are three names that I would look at for possible if the Cowboys take a center and maybe you're looking for a tackle at 87. Rosengarten sitting 73rd on my board, Fisher 77, and Foster 88 on my stack right there would be guys if you're looking for tackles.
Could those guys start for you as rookies?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. The one I think they would start right off the jump would be Rosengarten. I just think he's got that kind of ability to be. He's just, like I say, they've all played a ton of football, but I feel like that he's an interesting player because when you watch him play, he does a really nice job of setting up how he pass blocks. And I mean that in a way of sometimes you drop with depth and then width and then your hands and your feet. He'll short set you. And when I mean short set you is like instead of dropping back, he'll just take you on at the line. So if he varies the way that he pass blocks. And so that kind of throws.
Kind of looks like a run block. And
yeah, it looks like run. Yeah, he's trying to kind of throw off, and he's really cagey the way he does that with his ability to like all of a sudden you see him. He sets, then he short sets. And now he's taking the guy on the line of scrimmage. The guy's got, thinking he's going to get up the field, and then he gets him on the short set. And so you could see him vary those pass rushes or pass blocks, and I think he does a really, really nice job. I want to point out a guard for you in the third round as well. Christian Mahogany from Boston College. Got him as my 82nd best player on my board. And what I like about Christian Mahogany, he reminds me a lot of like Ron Leary. And I say this in a way of respect because when Christian Mahogany, there's times where Boston College hasn't been very good and they've been out of games. But this guy, as Ron Leary did when he was at Memphis, played extremely hard. His team would be down 30, 40 points, and this guy is just driving people off the ball. I'm watching the Miami game, and they throw an interception basically to end the game, and he goes and makes the tackle when they're down 30-something points. He's got that kind of pride, but you watch him play. He's a really good foot athlete. He can pull. He can play with power. He works good with the guys around him. So Christian Mahogany, if you kind of start to hear some names, maybe not we'll see with the Cowboys. Another guy to keep an eye on is Delmar Glaze out of Maryland. I think that's a guy that the Cowboys have kind of got some focus on. So Mahogany, Glade, Pooney from Kansas, all three guys that if the Cowboys were looking for a guard, I think that that maybe that's the area that they would go into. We mentioned the centers. I think Powers Johnson's the best one out of Oregon. Graham Barton as another one that I think a lot of Cowboy fans hope for. Zach Frazier from West Virginia, we've talked about him a bunch. I do want to talk about Hunter Norzad from Penn State real quick, if I could. If you get that into the fourth round.
People are draft horny right now.
Yeah, well, the centers you have, like I say, we mentioned Powers Johnson, Barton, Frazier, Van Pran out of Georgia is another one I think that's kind of a third round guy. But if they get down in the fourth round, Hunter Norzad from Penn State, have him player 106 on my board. And here's a guy that's a little bit of he's probably not the athlete of the other ones ahead, but you start to talk about a tough guy, a guy that works well with the guys next to him, a guy that can get movement in the run game, a guy that stays on his blocks. He gets Velcroed onto people, and his ability to get some push, I think, is pretty impressive. His ability to stay in front of his man as a pass blocker, I think, is pretty impressive. He's getting down to that point where he's the last guy that I feel like is better than what you had with Broaddus. I'm trying to say, where's the point where I'm like, okay, everyone past this line is not as good as Broaddus.
Yeah.
Hunter Norzad, Penn State. I think he's the last guy of the center.
Once he's gone, we're done.
Once he's done, then it's about Bo Limmer
and hoping they take steroids.
Yeah, exactly. But Norzad would be the last guy on my list. as far as that being better than what you had.
Is there any active hoping they take steroids in NFL front offices? Like, wow, it'd be really nice if this never.
I've never heard.
You've never hoped that?
I've never walked.
You
out.
never hoped it?
No, I never walked down in the weight room and stuff and heard strength coaches talking about it or anything like that. So yeah.
I mean, it seems like such an obvious opportunity.
In the 80s.
Just hiding in plain sight,
80s,
the good ones.
We were playing Nebraska and people like that, yeah. I mean, our team at LSU was all steroid team. Our defense, all our senior.
Look at that.
No, I'm serious. No,
It was a huge thing in the 80s.
No, it was
everywhere.
It was in college football. That was
the views expressed by Brian Broaddus are Brian Broaddus and Brian Broaddus only.
Been a long time ago, but yeah, not naming names, but yeah, we had involvement.
But it was everybody.
It was everybody.
Thank you, man.
Everybody but me.